the Steelers had their pre-draft press conference today. Mike Tomlin, Omar Kahn came out. They said some stuff. I don't know if we agree. Mike Tomlin's going to give us the Tomlinisms. There was a whole lot of that. We're going to basically play 5 clips for you guys to hear, and then we're going to talk about it. So the first one is talking about the quarterback plan. Let's go to that clip real quick, and we'll go from there.
We discussed in Palm Beach a couple weeks ago. We go to camp with 4 quarterbacks. Right now we have 2 on the roster, and all options are on the table. And how we acquire those last 2, I assure you, we'll have 4 when we get to Latrobe.
Does the Aaron Rodgers situation have any impact on your strategy or approach in the draft?
It does not.
Okay, Big G. So we hear that. So basically, Omar Khan says we're going to camp with 4 guys. Right now we have 2. And basically everything's on the table on how we get those other 2 quarterbacks. First off, let's start with that. Are you glad to hear that?
Yeah. Can I decipher what he's saying? Because this is GM talk. What he's telling you is that we're going to draft a quarterback. If Rodgers joins us, there's 4. If Rodgers doesn't, we're going to pick a guy off the street to bring him in as a camp arm. There it is. That's how we're going to get to 4. Either we're drafting 1, Rodgers is going to come in and join us. There's the 4. Or if Rodgers doesn't, we're going to pick a guy off the streets to give a camp arm and give us 4. That's what he said.
Correct. And that's basically the scenario there. And to be quite frank, I think Skylar Thompson might already be the camp arm. But we'll see. We'll see. But that's what's going to happen. They're leaving the door open for Rodgers if that's the case. But we're definitely going to draft a guy. Now moving on to Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin basically came out. What we've all said all along is that whether Rodgers comes or not, me and you and a lot of people have said it doesn't change what the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to do on draft day. None of that is going to change their plan. And Tomlin's coming out and telling you, yeah, whether he's on our team or not, we're still going to make our plan. And then if he joins us, great. But if he doesn't, we're moving forward. I like that approach, actually. I don't know if I necessarily wholeheartedly believe it. Or I guess I should say I believe in the plan, but I don't believe that they're not still holding out hope for Rodgers. I believe that they still are, unfortunately. But that's kind of where we are with this. Tell me what you think, Big G.
I mean, B, I agree with what you're saying. The deal is if we get Aaron Rodgers, he probably might go down in history as one of the best bridge quarterbacks. To get from our old quarterback, bring a guy in just to settle us down for a year, and then pass it on to the young guy. So I'm not one of those guys that's just like, I hate Aaron Rodgers, but in my mind, it's time to move on with or without him. If you want to join us, we're available. If not, then we're going to push on down the road. But if you join us, you can definitely help us in 2025. So I like the way he did it. That wasn't a Tomlinism that we always get. He was straight, direct, and to the point, which
Correct.
I'm feeling. Yeah.
Next clip we got here is trading George Pickens. Of course, they got asked that question. Here's what the guys had to say about it.
No, we're glad we have George and DK here. I think they're going to be exciting for everyone to watch. Excited to have DK here, but no.
To me, it sounds like, he said no. He said it a couple different times. Big G's been on the trade George Pickens bandwagon. I don't think so. Look, I think the Steelers are under the impression, look, if we can get one of these rookie quarterbacks to work out for us, we can keep and we can pay George Pickens when it's time to pay him. We got DK, we got GP. We need to move forward with both. That's the impression that I think the Steelers need to go with. These guys are young. It's not like one of them is 31, 32 years old. They're not. They're young guys. Look, there's worse things in the world paying 2 big-time wide receivers while you're still developing a quarterback. Teams do it all the time. The Steelers need to be in that mold. I am off of the trade George Pickens bandwagon. I'm never sure that I was really on it, but I think the Steelers need to keep him. They need to keep him. He's talented. Make it work.
I'm not mad if they trade. First of all, let me say this: I love GP. I think he's a great player. I think he needs to grow up. But I'm
Yes.
not mad if they trade him. Okay, number one. But number two, bro, did you see how Tomlin looked at Omar Kahn? That's like me and you being in the same room and looking at each other. You don't know for sure what I'm going to say,
Right.
right? I picked up on that. I read body language. I get paid to do that. I'm a therapist and a counselor. So really what that showed me is that for the right price, GP is up out of there. And listen, I'm telling y'all, don't get mad, but emergency to break glass is a GP trade for a second and a fourth round draft pick. If the right call player comes around and we want to get back in the second at the right position, and we can get a second and a fourth for GP, one of those picks between the one we pick in the first round and the one we pick in the second round is a wide receiver. So,
But
and listen, I'm not mad at that. I'm not.
here's the thing, though.
Mhm.
Um, at some point, you have to pay talented guys. You
Facts.
know, and you don't always get talented guys with draft picks. Now,
Okay.
look, I understand that George Pickens is a 100% crash out.
Yeah.
He's that.
Yeah.
However, I mean, we've talked about it as far as a talent and just talent alone.
Mhm.
George Pickens is in the top 10 of wide receivers. He might be in the top 7 as far as just talented guys when you just stick to that.
Uh-huh.
I mean, why are you trading that? And that's my only thing is, look, we've dealt with worse in the locker room. I mean,
Okay.
from Plaxico Burris, Santonio Holmes,
Mhm.
the Antonio Browns, Clace Chapels, Juju Smith. I mean,
Yeah.
we've dealt with knucklehead receivers forever, you
Okay.
know. And I mean, Deontay Johnson. I mean, I get it, but other than AB, were any of those guys as talented as George Pickens? I mean, strictly talented? I don't think
Yeah.
so. They were
Yeah.
good, but I don't know if they were as talented as him. And at some point, you just have to pay talented guys. You can't have a room full of choir boys in your locker room. It doesn't work that way in the National Football League. Hell, it don't
Yeah.
work that way at your job. So if
Yeah.
it doesn't work that way at your job, what makes you think it's going to work that way in a locker room? It isn't. You have to contain them. You have to keep them under control. But I think you at some point it's, hey man, he's too talented to give up. We can team him up with DK, which brings me to my next point.
Mhm.
Where would you rank them? Where do you rank those two, Big G? If they stick together, let's say the Steelers pay Pickens, where are we
Yeah.
going to rank these two guys?
Top 7 as a
Okay.
tandem. Top 7. But I got to ask the scenario before I answer that. If you had this is your options. GP, that's your option right there. Trading GP and walking out of it with Omarion Hampton and Emeka Buka. Which one you doing?
I mean, GP's more talented than him.
Okay.
And I've seen it on a football field in the National Football League.
Okay.
And he's what, 25? I
Okay.
don't think you get rid of that
Okay.
for
I'm
somebody
just
that you
asking.
don't
I'm just
know.
asking. Yeah, I'm just asking. Like if because that might be some of the thinking. I'm not saying to all the Steelers upper level, but they're saying, okay, if we can go young, get off that contract that we don't have to deal with, and reboot the wide receiver room, it might be worth it. That's all I'm saying.
Correct.
But if they keep GP, then yes, they're a top 7 duo in the league. As long as we got the quarterback. I mean, from a talent standpoint, it gets ugly. First of all, who you double teaming? Because once you
Right.
make that decision, the other guy's got a one-on-one on the other side. So, or if not, the tight ends are going to become the greatest tight ends in NFL history because they running up the seam or nickel corner or a slow linebacker every freaking time. So yeah,
Right.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, I get it. I see it both ways. Maybe just for me.
Danny Littlejohn with the super chat says if Sanders falls to 15, got to trade up to pick him. Absolutely not. You got to read the room on that case. He falls to 15. Nobody else is taking a quarterback until the Steelers pick at 21. So no, you
Facts.
don't need to move up.
Yeah.
Um,
Facts.
but my thing is, I don't know why you need to reset the wide receiver room. I just don't think you need to do that. But either way, I get it. Let's move on, man. We got the next video talking about Jaylen Warren. See what the guys had to say about that.
Mike, this one's for you. You picked up Kenneth Gainwell. You've got a really good running back class, it looks like, in the draft coming ahead here. What's your outlook on Jaylen entering this season. He's a guy that's obviously he's carried a lot for you here. Is he an RB1 type? Can he handle the load?
I certainly feel comfortable with his ability to do so. He got hampered by injury some in 2024. He appears to be ready to answer that. I know he's really excited about his opportunity. I don't think myself or anyone within the organization question his talents in regards to managing, the ability to manage potentially that role.
To me, that's Mike Tomlin again, giving Tomlinisms. Yeah, we're going to give him the opportunity, but we're drafting a guy.
Yeah.
That's Mike Tomlin saying, yes, we're going to give him that opportunity, but we are 100% drafting a running back. Chad, I don't know if you all heard anything different than that, but that's what I heard out of that is that, yeah, he was hurt in 2024. Nobody disagrees with him, but the bottom line is we'll give him an opportunity, but we're drafting a guy. Big G, did you hear anything different than that?
I heard the exact same freaking thing. But what the reason why he did it is because Jalen Warner signed his tenure today.
Correct.
So out of respect, Jalen Warren signed your tenure. Okay, we're going to give you an opportunity. And that's probably the same conversation that he had with Jalen Warren prior to him signing the contract. He signed his tenure. We're going to give you an opportunity to be RB1. But no, we got to go get a guy. We got to go get a guy that can handle 20 carries. We got to go do it. So, yeah, I'm with you, B. I'm with you 100% on this one, bro.
Yeah, like I said, I like Jalen Warren. I like what he brings, but I've said it a million times, and I'll continue to say it. Jalen Warren is a 12 to 15 max touch a game guy, not carries, touch. That means catching, passing, or running, whatever you want to do, but 15 times a game is his absolute max. I don't think the Steelers need to do anything different than that, man. They just need another guy. I'll be honest with you. I'm still puzzled that the Steelers brought in Gainwell. Like, why do you need 3 running backs in the National Football League like that? Like, you're not going to the third. Like, how often does an NFL team go to the third guy? Like, I know the Steelers did it inexplicably last year with Cordell Patterson. I had no idea what they were doing. But teams don't just, hey, man, we're going to run 3 running backs out there. How often? Like, why? What are we doing? Like I said, I like the fact that Jalen Warren's on our football team, but let's just be honest. Jalen Warren's a change of pace guy, Big G. He's not an every down guy.
That's facts. And you know why they got Atwell? Because Warren has an injury history. And they need somebody to spell him. So they're going to go get the guy to replace Najee in the draft. And then Atwell's in case Warren goes down. That's the whole reason. They're the same back. That's why they got him. That's not rocket science, bro. That's how we do.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. I don't get it. But it is what it is. It is what it is. That's a Mike Tomlinism all the way. Like I said, and he basically, because he didn't, if he was the guy, you know how Mike Tomlin is, he would just say it. Hey, yes, he's going to be the RB1. We look forward to having him in that position, and all he said was, well, Warren's excited about the opportunity, but he didn't say, yeah, Warren is definitely our guy. He's going to be RB1. He's worked hard for this, and we're excited about giving him the opportunity to be that guy. Yeah, we didn't hear any of that. All we heard was he'll get an opportunity and we're going to draft a guy. That's what I got out of that. So moving on to the next one, talking about trade talks, just trades in general.
You brought it up in your opening comments about the prospect of potentially trading back. You guys haven't done that in a while. What has it been? I'm sure you've had calls every year, but why has it always been that you've decided to not do that? And when it comes to the valuation of why you might, what do you think would talk you into doing it?
Talking about in the first round?
Yeah.
I think the key, the way I look at it is you never really want to trade away from a really good player that can help you and the right guy for us. We've identified, by the time we get to Thursday, we'll have identified certain guys that we will not trade away from. And that's just sort of how it's worked out. A couple of years ago, we traded up to get Broderick. He was the guy we wanted, and we're open to it. So,
I like it. He's got an attitude about it, but he's just the Steelers aren't trading up, man. They're not moving up this year, Big G. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. Teams are wanting. First off, what are you willing to give up just to move up? And I
Yeah,
don't think they should give up anything. I think they
yeah.
should just stay right where they are. And the guys that they want, I feel like there's a plethora of guys that will be available based on the need and who they want. Just stick right where you're at. Don't worry about it. Don't move. Now, if you could move back a couple spaces, but again, my thing is if you move back 2 or 3 spaces, let's say you move back 3,
Mm-hmm.
for what? An extra 5th round pick? Because you ain't getting no second, you're not getting a third, or you're not getting a 4th by
Yeah,
moving back 3 spots. All
yeah,
you're doing is losing access to a better football player just
yeah.
to move back. So, hey, we moved back 3 spots, so we got an extra 5th round pick. That doesn't make any sense. Now, if you move back 7 spots or 8, that's something different.
Yeah.
But you still lose access to better football players just so you can say you have a 2nd round pick. I'm just not sure that's the case, man. I don't know. I just look at it as we used our 2nd round pick to get a big time wide receiver. We already
Mm-hmm.
did that.
Mm-hmm.
Deal with it and let's move on.
Yeah. I like the fact that he's saying for the first time in a long time they're willing to trade and gamble the pick per se, because you don't, like, B, with draft picks, you never know which way they're going to go. So if they put themselves in position to trade backwards, I'm not mad. But I also heard him something that me and you have been saying all along, that we have players that are slotted to be at pick 21, multiple. So I think in my opinion, there's 4 or 5 guys that they're okay with taking them at that position. And if those 4 or 5 guys are not there, they're going to try to move back. And listen, I'm the guy that's been saying all along, I wouldn't be mad at the Steelers, even though I know it sounds crazy, trading all the way out the first round. If they could walk out of this based on depth of position of need for us, running back and defensive tackle, if
Right.
they can walk out of this thing with 2 second rounds and 2 third rounds, I'm happy. Because I think the quality of depth of what you can get at running back and at defensive tackle, 4 picks within those 2 rounds is well worth versus just sitting at 21 and taking a player just to say we took one. That's
Right.
just my way I evaluate talent, man.
Nope. You're exactly right. There's people in the chat, and I'm just asking this question. People keep saying move up to 15 to
No,
draft Shador Sanders. Like,
no.
why are we moving up to 15? Like, that doesn't make any sense. 15 is the Falcons. You think the Falcons are taking a quarterback, or the Cardinals or the Bengals or the Seahawks or Tampa or Denver? You think any of those teams are going to draft a quarterback? And you even look behind, the only team that I could say behind the Steelers that are looking to get a quarterback might be the Rams. They
Yeah,
might move up. Other than that, nobody's drafting quarterbacks.
yeah,
So if they got past 14 with the Colts, which I'm not certain that'll happen, but if it does, what are we doing? Like, we don't
right.
need to move up to take Shador. That doesn't make any sense. None of those teams are going to be drafting a quarterback. None of them. And even the teams behind them aren't drafting a quarterback. So just be patient. Just be
Yeah,
patient. If that's the move, that's the move. But there's no reason to move up. I don't think. And my man says the Seahawks might. They just gave Sam Darnold $1 trillion.
yeah,
They're not going to move up to take Shador Sanders. They're not
yeah,
going to do that. If this was next year and Sam Darnold had already played for you a season, I could see, yeah, okay, but don't get me wrong. Seahawks are going to do whatever they're going to do. It wouldn't make sense, but
yeah.
either way, there's no reason to move up. Not in this draft, Big G.
No, and the Seahawks is trying to trade Howell right now to get draft capital. So they sold on Sam Darnold. That ain't
Correct.
going nowhere. But that's Steeler fans living in their fears, thinking that the Browns or the Giants might jump back in the first round and jump in front of us. If they jump, leapfrog, leap. Go ahead and do what you need to do. I'm not getting suckered into that to
Yeah,
jump up and give you, man, do you know how many points it's going to take you to go from 21 to 15? You're
yeah.
giving up all kind of capital. Heck
Too
no.
much.
Sit
Too
there
much.
and just wait. Sit there and wait.
Correct. Too much.
Yeah.
Too
Yeah.
much. So, and I get it. The Rams and the Saints, they could draft a QB. We'll let them because the Steelers ain't moving up to 9 or in front of 9 to get a quarterback. We're not doing
Heck
that.
yeah.
We're not
Fact.
doing that. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Last one that we got, defensive tackle talk. Last video that we have, see what the guys have to say about defensive tackle.
Mike, what are you looking for or need from a defensive lineman when it comes to you?
You know, this is a deep group in that area, and they come in many different shapes and sizes, and I just think that's a component of it. Some guys are power players who happen to be athletic. If you're talking about elite interior defensive linemen, some guys are oversized athletes, and it's the same in Sunday ball. Some guys are power players who happen to be athletic. Some guys are oversized athletes, and oftentimes that means that they get the job done in a different way, but the job gets done. And it's our job as organizations, and particularly as coaches, to utilize their talents. And so we cast a big net. We appreciate different modes of operations, if you will. And whoever we do business with, we're going to work to highlight their skills and how they play and how they produce plays.
Omar and Mike, you guys looked at several different defensive tackles and pre-draft visitors. Does the different style that these guys have and how they might fit with what you currently have on the defensive line impact you guys' plan, or do you guys look to just get the guy that you think is the best defensive tackle, period, and say like that's the priority, or are there styles that you're looking to find in this class?
Yeah, from my standpoint, you know, you want to get as many good players as you can, regardless of the position, and you know, obviously that matters. I'll let Coach answer that. Some of the rest of it, but obviously, you know, what they do matters, but just get as many good players as you can.
I think, and this probably goes for any discussion about any position group, the higher you're picking in the draft, the less you're concerned about schematic fits, because their pedigree should supersede schematic fits, and the more marginal the pedigree, the more you better identify the schematic fit. And so later in the draft, that's probably more significant discussions regarding schematic fits than at the top end of the draft. Those animals at the top end of the draft, I'd imagine, fit in any system of football, whether it's offense, defense, or special teams.
So first off, I want to say it was a lot of Mike Tomlinism BS at the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
but at the end, I like what he said, Big G. I like that he said, you know, the better the pedigree, which, you know, the better the player means he can fit into whatever we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because at first I thought, oh, well, hell, that means they're not even trying to take a D tackle, you know, early. But then when he says that, it's like, oh, okay. To me, now it means that they're taking a defensive tackle with 21. And that's the guy that they want because, hey, we got to stop the run. The higher the pedigree, he can fit into whatever we are trying to do versus taking a guy later in the draft where they're not as good and they got to fit into a scheme. I like that approach, Big G.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you what he said, because like you said, there was a lot of coach speak. What he said was, if Kenneth Grant or Harmon is available in the first, we're going to take him because we're going to need a dog. But we're not subjective to not take a Walter Nolan because the talent is so high, because he's an athlete that they turned into a defensive tackle. And then what he said is later on in the draft, when you start talking about third and fourth round, we need a guy who's going to fit our team schematically. So that's when we're going to go. If we go get a Walter Nolan in the first, maybe in the third or the fourth, we look at a JJ Pegasus. Maybe at the third or the fourth, we look at a Farmer. Maybe at the third or the fourth, we look at a Tyleek Williams, because we got to get a stud in the middle that's going to block up this whole thing on running. So I heard him say that if they're what I basically heard him say is too, they're probably going to go D tackle twice. And so if they go D tackle twice, if you get the athlete that you can move around like a chess piece on the defensive line early, and then go get the big boy to go in the middle late, that's what Tomlin's talking about right there, bro, to me.
Absolutely. Claude Bishop with the super chat. Missed you the last couple of weeks, Claude. Appreciate you coming in. He said D lineman in the first and the third is a must.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a must, but it's a good.
I don't think you have to go both.
Yeah.
I think that's a waste. We got too many holes, but I think a D tackle in the first makes sense. I definitely think a D tackle in the first makes sense. So
yeah.
I don't know.
B, did you hear the thing about the medicals with Harmon?
Did you
hear
not.
about that? Oh yeah, dog. There's some issues with Harmon with the medicals.
What are they?
They talking about his knee is jacked up and his shoulder might be jacked up too, bro. Yeah, I'm telling you, I heard it today. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. So, you know, I mean, I'm not saying he's going to fall out of the first round, But B, you know from experience, and our executive producer, they know from experience that when medicals come out late about a player, that means that one of the evaluators released that information.
Absolutely.
So somebody that is looking at drafting Harmon said, "Wait a minute, bro. You might not want to do this because the medicals say this is what's going on with this player." So there's been
Correct.
3 guys whose medicals has come out late: Cortland Loveland, Harmon, and JJ Pegasus. Their
Correct.
medicals came out late. So that means there's something going on with them, and the team that knows it don't want to be accused of like not telling information, so they let it loose. They let it loose, bro. So I don't know. I don't know about Harmon. I'm not all the way in.
I mean, I like Harmon. I like Grant. But somebody did say in the chat that, Mike Tomlin doesn't believe that nose tackle is that big of a position. And they're right. I mean, that's kind of his thinking, I guess, which to me, it drives me insane because if you're going to play a 3-4 defense, you can't play one without a nose tackle. I mean, you just can't. So, I mean, you can't have one without a nose tackle.
Yeah.
And the thing about Keanu Benton, like we play Keanu Benton at nose tackle, he's not big enough.
Yeah.
He's just physically not big enough to play the position. It's a problem. At some point, you got to get somebody in there big enough to do it.
You need a 330er.
Yeah.
You need a 330er. You got to get a 330er. Give me
Yeah.
a 330er over the center. 330.
Correct.
Yeah.
Grant. So the thing about it is I'd predicted Grant may be gone early, but who knows? Who knows? Hopefully not.